My name is Jankoski. I am the transition coordinator for Baldwin High School, which is within the Baldwin-Whitehall School District just outside of Pittsburgh. And I've been there for about 9 years now. Previously, before that, I had a background in teaching as a life skills teacher. So I've spent, over a dozen years in transition, working with different things with employment and just lots of different things related around transition. So what I'm going to be talking about today is a new endeavor that we have been working on for a few years at our high school, and we're finally able to implement and put into place last year. Okay, just to give you guys a little bit of a background information, you'll hear me talk a lot about what we call the partners model, and I'm sure a lot of people around have used similar models or call it something similar, but just so you're aware, at Baldwin we use a partners model for a lot of things that we do. We're a very inclusive school district. We are very involved with Special Olympics. We're starting up with Best Buddies, and we also have a very popular partners program. So partners, basically what we do is we currently have it in place for, like I said, physical education, music, and now with our Baldwin Bean coffee shop, is that it matches students with and without special needs together in various opportunities to promote inclusion. We use our partners to kind of help our students with meeting their goals, whether it's physical activity, whether it's socialization, whether it's academics, self-care, all of those different types of things. Throughout our school district and our high school especially, because we also have some partners programs at our middle school currently. But we started out with just physical education, and then, like I said, we've also moved into music. And those classes are actually regular education classes taught by a regular education teacher. Our students that take the class, it has a mixture, like I said, of 1 to 1.5 ratio of students with and without special needs. So just so you have a little bit of a background, that's kind of where a lot of these ideas have stemmed from, is us using this partners model. Okay. Again, another term I'm sure a lot of you have heard before, either inclusive or integrated employment. We use inclusive just because we constantly are trying to get the word inclusive throughout all of our students and understanding what inclusion means. But it's an opportunity that refers to individuals with and without disabilities working alongside one another. Obviously, there's a big push with everything that's happening right now with schools and with work about inclusion and opportunities for students with disabilities to be in the same situation, same environment as non-disabled peers. So the idea for the Baldwin Bean had actually started probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Myself and our life skills teacher, Mr. Josh Stahl, had kind of talked a lot about different ways that we could incorporate opportunities for our students. Like I said, we try to do as many different things as we can to hit post-secondary employment and independent living goals for our students. We do a lot of pre-vocational things currently within our school and district where we have students, as I'm sure many other people do, they do jobs within the school building. We also have internships where our students go out into the other buildings within our school district to complete work. And then also we have community partners that allow our students to come in and do some unpaid internships to do some job development, work readiness and things of that nature. So we had kind of come up with the idea of wanting to do like a little cafe or a coffee shop, and we kind of explored some different models. We had talked about possibly doing that, the coffee cart model, where we had like one cart that we could take around to different places. We researched looking up the coffee shop kind of as an independent business. We went around and looked at some other local schools. Some of the schools that are around us had similar models. There's a school district near us called Elizabeth Ford that has a cafe that's within their library and media center. We looked at another school, South Park, that has a couple little tables set up within their cafeteria. We had talked to some different people about what had worked and what hadn't worked. The goal for us, as I said before, really focusing on inclusion, was to not just have a space for our life skills students or students with disabilities to have a place to do vocational work, but we really wanted it to be a space that was for the entire school. So when I kind of looked at that, I didn't really like necessarily the coffee cart model or having it within just the cafeteria, because in my mind then when we're doing that, we would kind of just make our students with special needs stand out even more by having them be the only people working there. So what we wanted to do is incorporate incorporate the partners model, and we wanted to make this a place that the entire school would want to, embrace and be a part of. So one of the big things that we do is we formed a staff and a student planning committee. So the staff planning committee consisted of myself and some other people that we chose to partner with, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as to some of the different people that we partnered with. The big thing that I wanted to get feedback from was our students, because if we have a coffee shop and none of our students want to go, then it's not really going to work. And I don't know how many of you guys are around high school kids and, in school buildings or whatnot, but one of the things that we had noticed is the large amount of Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and coffees just coming through every day when kids were coming in the morning. And we were like, while we wouldn't be able to compete with Starbucks and Dunkin', we could at least maybe kind of take a portion of some of that and have it go to something that would be beneficial for us in a couple different ways. Working with a lot of the students, it was interesting because we had some high school students that had never had coffee before, and they weren't necessarily that interested. And then we had other ones who were like, well, if you're going to do this, make sure that the espresso ratio is good with this, with a certain kind of, and I'm like, holy crap, how do you know all this when you're like 15, 16 years old? But so we did a lot of stuff that to plan this out, to kind of see what would be the best way to get this. So there was a lot of planning. When we first came up with the idea about 4 or 5 years ago, like the timing really just wasn't right. We didn't necessarily know like where we could do it, and we didn't necessarily know how we wanted to do it. So we really spent some additional years kind of just doing some research and kicking around different ideas to see what would be the most successful. So once we had kind of decided that, okay, we're going to move forward with this, in the spring of 2018, so a little over a year ago, we got started. And after we formed our committee and said, okay, we're going to move forward with this, here's what we did. So again, trying to pull in all of the student body from the high school to get buy-in, we held a naming contest. So we offered some options. Also, as a little bit of a background, we are a Google school district. So we have a one-to-one initiative where all of our students have Chromebooks. So a lot of the stuff that we did, like we sent out a Google form where we asked people to submit names, and we had a couple lists of names for them to pick from or to submit their own name, and Baldwin Bean was the choice that was selected. We had also tried to come up with Baldwin Brews, but apparently there was a little bit too close of association with the fermenting beer alcohol situation, so that idea had to get scrapped. So Baldwin Bean was the next closest one that we came up with, so that worked. We also had held a logo contest. So what we wanted to do was, try to get as much student interaction as possible. And again, using Google Forms, we set up a survey where students could upload images. It was very interesting to see all the different, we probably had close to about 30 different submissions of logos from students. And not just students that are like really big into graphics, it was just some students. The student that came up with the winning logo, which was actually this one here, is not he's now a graphic design student in college, but this was one of the first graphics he had ever really made. He didn't really get into it until he was about ready to graduate, so that was kind of cool. His mom's a teacher in our school district, so she loves sharing with him all the different stuff we've been able to do with his logo. But of course he was very upset that he graduated before we actually got the coffee shop open, but he still comes back, so all good there. And then we also have another logo that's kind of like our secondary logo. So when we came down to it, we really liked the purple logo with the wording of the Baldwin Bean is more of kind of like a modern logo, but then also the one in the white with the coffee shop or the coffee cup and beans, just as something that was maybe a little bit more traditional. And we kind of utilized both logos in different ways, in different methods. One of the other things that we did was we had a taste test. So what we did was one day at the end of the school year, we looked at different types of things. We tried like some different juices, some different latte recipes, and actually had an opportunity for students to try things out and tell us what they liked and what they didn't like. Some students, again, who had never tried anything, coffee related were pretty interested, or other students, tried a latte for the first time and like, oh, it's not too bad. It doesn't taste too, heavily, coffee-ish, if you would say. Then the other thing that we did was we finally then finalized our location. Okay, so what we ended up deciding on, and one of the biggest reasons why we were able to move forward with this, is a space became available within our high school. So this is a picture of the classroom that was originally housed by our newspaper, which is called the Perbolite. And it had been in this classroom for, I'd say, well over 20 years, at least. So there was a lot of history in the newspaper having this particular space. Well, the newspaper decided that they were going to move to a different space within our high school, and this room opened up. What's really nice about this space is the classroom that you can see here, there's a door to the right-hand side that has almost like another classroom. So there's these two huge spaces that automatically became available. And we kind of took that as our sign of, okay, now's the time to do it. This is where we need to go. So what we decided is we were going to take the classroom and then renovate it into a coffee shop. So the model would have, a regular, kind of serving space where we would have everything, but then also have kind of like a little lounge area off to the side. That way we could accommodate a few more people, and also, as I'll talk about a little bit later, host some events, have some other, different opportunities to, bring in different things. But this is where we originally started, was, having, this classroom in place. So then, going under construction, the construction of the space wasn't too big. One of the biggest things our superintendent told us when we got started with this, he's like, I love the idea, run with it, but you're not going to get any money from the school district. So you have to find some other ways to do it, as I'm sure any of you guys who work in a school district have heard before. So one of the few things he did say was we had to do, the only minor construction thing we had to do was install a hand washing sink. And I'll get into the operation of where we kind of pull stuff from and what we did. But the one thing that we had to do was put in a hand washing sink. Lucky for us, on the other side of this purple wall over here, is our concession stand for our our gymnasium and stuff like that. So there's a water line already in there, so we were able to just kind of knock that wall out a little bit and tie into that water line to put in a hand washing sink. Then the only other construction we did was taking down all of the old cabinets, putting in some new drywall, and then painting. So luckily, again, this is where I use the students' help, because I don't know about any of you guys, but I'm terrible at picking paint colors, and my wife will attest to that. So the good thing was we already had a Baldwin purple, like the local PPG Paints by us has a special one for that. But then we kind of wanted to do something that wasn't just the same white, so we went with a little bit of a gray, and then we did some purple accent walls just to give it some pops of color. And all of the students that you see painting here volunteered their time to do it, whether they're students from our Special Olympics Club or our Partners Program, or students from our committee that we had brought in, that all volunteered their time to come in and help paint. And I'll show you, a little bit later some of the other really cool things that we were able to get students involved with. Okay, so here is the finished product. Once everything was completed. So it took a few months to go from that. We did some stuff over the summer last year, and then we're able to get ourselves set up with our grand opening here on November 9th, or I think it was November 2nd, was when we had our grand opening. So as I mentioned before, we kind of had the two spaces where, we have the serving area where everything's prepared and, checkout with some seating, and then we had some additional soft seating off to the side, and then all the murals and everything that you see up there, I'll show a little bit more later, but all student done. Our student high school National Art Honor Society came in, did the designs, and made everything. And it was very exciting. We had spent a lot of time trying to get everything ready, not just for the operation of the coffee shop part of it and the vocational training and aspect of it, but getting the physical space prepared was also a huge aspect of what we were trying to do. Okay, so the big things that we needed to do to get our coffee shop up and open and operational. The first thing was I had to solicit some donations. So as I mentioned before, our superintendent was like, I love the idea. We don't have money to, throw into this. So what I did was I partnered with, we have an educational foundation, and a lot of school districts are moving in this direction where they have an educational foundation that hosts events throughout the year. Well, they offer grants. So we applied for a grant, and they gave us a couple $1,000s to help with, paint supplies, some furniture, and different things like that. We also got a donation from our local borough and police association, gave us some money, and then we also got a significant investment from our food service department. So that kind of leads me into our partnership with the food service department. They're probably the largest group that we partnered with in trying to get this experience up and running. Because we fall under the guidelines of like Smart Snack and having to be reimbursed for all of that, we had to make sure that everything that we serve there falls under those guidelines, which means like no real sugar. It has to be like diet drinks and sugar free. So all of the lattes we make are skinny lattes, which means they have low percent milk in them, and they're also all only one size, which actually works really well for our students when we're trying to teach them how to make things, because as an initial coffee shop, they don't have to worry about 3 pumps in a small, 6 in a large. So it's a good way to kind of start them off with that experience and kind of moving forward. The other thing that our food service department was able to do for us was they made a large investment in our coffee shop. So when I went back and talked before about when we were looking at different models and looking to try to set up, how we would get everything set up, one of the things we did talk about was setting up as an independent business separate from our food service department. The problem with that is we have a lot of students that are on free and reduced lunch that don't necessarily, have the means to purchase anything. We also would only be open for a particular portion of the day and would be competing necessarily with the same time that our cafeteria is open. So while in a perfect situation, we would love for all of the revenue to maybe come back into our special education program, we made the decision that we cared more about having the vocational experience for our students with special needs, also having the amazing space for all of our students to take advantage of, and decided to not worry about necessarily the profits from the coffee shop coming back into our special education program. So because we made that agreement, our food service department then made a significant investment into us. I'll pull back. I'll show it on the next slide. Here, there's a picture. But what they did was they helped us with a lot of the startup costs. So what they did was they purchased a large refrigeration unit and a large freezer unit that has counter space for us to be able to purchase everything. They were able to work with one of their vendors to get us a free Otis Spunkmeyer cookie oven so we could do fresh baked cookies every day. They purchased all of the display items and the beverage tanks that we needed and all of the stuff that's out on the counter space. Now, a lot of it was stuff that they already had, but then they did also invest some of their money toward purchasing some of those things, with their mindset being that this is going to generate more revenue for them, so they're going to be able to make it back. And like I said, with the breakfast program being a huge part of what we do, students are able to come through, purchase a breakfast in the morning instead of just having to get coffee. Now, they're welcome to do that as well, but if they don't want to, if they just wanted to come through and get their breakfast, they're able to do that. And then once people kind of caught on that we were somehow able to get certain kind of donuts into the mix as a breakfast item through Smart Snack, I'm not really quite sure how she did that, but it's within the calorie count. We kind of saw the business sales jump up a little bit with that. One of the other things that we had to do was, excuse me, before I get to that, with the food service department, we also order the bulk of our materials through them. So when they're placing their orders for cups and different types of things, they're ordering for us as well. So that kind of helps streamline everything that we're doing, because we don't have to do a separate order and rely on it. All of our stuff comes in with the regular orders that come in through the food service department. They were also able to set up certain special feature items for us. So they would have items at our coffee shop that they did not have in the cafeteria to try and draw more people in. So they would have like these, we would test these like Chobani fruit and yogurt smoothies that they didn't have there. Or we would have like different, flavors of, coffee cakes or muffins and things that they didn't have over there to, again, also try to, pull in. Our menu pricing and the selection of items and everything, they kind of really helped do that. They came up with the pricing. They kind of said, this is what we sell this for over here, so we're going to sell it for the same amount, or this is what it's going to cost for a latte based off of what we're doing. So having them to kind of partner with really helped alleviate some of the, work that I had to do in the beginning in terms of getting everything up and going. One of the other things that I then had to do is we wanted to make sure that everything was within, guidelines and, industry certifications and stuff. So I had to get my ServSafe certification as a, food manager. So then I took an online course, got certified, so that we made sure that anytime the shop was open, we at least had one staff person there, whether it was myself or it was one of the other food service individuals that was certified to be able to make sure that everything was kind of operating within standards, making sure, hand washing procedures, wash, rinse, sanitize, all those different types of things. Looking at the furniture and the equipment, we used Amazon for a lot of stuff because we did a lot of research looking at furniture and equipment that we could purchase, and a lot of it's very expensive. And again, when you're looking for things that you don't necessarily have a budget for, you're trying to find something that is going to be good. So we were actually able to find a lot of really nice items on Amazon that were easy to put together and fairly durable and pretty low cost in terms of what we were looking to do. Another big thing that we had to do is you'll see we mentioned student baristas. So that's what we call all of our individuals that work there, is our student baristas. And a lot of times they're always like, what's a barista? And I'm like, guys, it's like the people that work behind the counter. I was like, you're a student barista. But so that's always pretty interesting. Okay. So I did leave out some copies of like the Smart Snack Guidelines, and if you download the stuff, I did put a link to it online if any of you are interested in it. It's the ones that were for this past school year from 2018-19, but it kind of talks about like all the different types of things that we're able to do. And here's like a picture of the refrigeration unit. So as you can see, it's one of those ones that's mobile. It has counter space on top, but then also is able to keep product in there underneath for everything there. So we have as I mentioned before, we have the Otis Spunkmeyer products, the equipment. Up there is a picture of what one of our breakfast combos is. So we have a variety of different combos that we can do. So for example, like a student could order, it's like a pastry with a juice or a fruit and a yogurt. We also serve fruit and yogurt smoothies that can be paired with, a muffin and something else, because, the fruit and yogurt smoothie meets the requirements for fruit, for milk, and then you just need a grain to kind of pair with that. That was the other fun thing I learned, like this is a 1 grain and that's a 2 grain, and you can pair this with this but not with that, and then trying to put that all together was somewhat interesting. But then we also serve everything from baked chips, Kind bars, we do yogurt parfaits, we do things like I said, the fresh baked cookies, different kind of pastries, small muffins, bigger muffins, and then sometimes we'll try out new products, whether it's drinks or foods or different things. We'll have like at October we had like a pumpkin loaf bread that was sliced, or different types of seasonal items. You'll hear me mention Skyward. Skyward is our operating system that we use for everything in our educational system at our school district. So we use it for our grades, we use it for attendance, we use it for that. I'm sure everyone has similar systems. The other thing we use Skyward for is each student has a lunch account. So as the students come through the line, they punch in their code for their lunch account, and then everything pops up. So that we use the same operating system as our cafeteria. So we're basically an extension of our cafeteria, just in a different part of the school building, but still able to do that. So if students come through and want to put money on their account, we can put money on their account from our register. It's basically just a Chromebook that has the operating system on it, but we're able to do that for purchases. We're able to check and see, students will come in and say, oh, how much money do I have on my account? Or I want to put a check on for $20 to reload my their account or whatever. All right. Okay, so just some of the stuff that we do with training our new student baristas. So there's some pictures up there. Before we started, we had to bring all of our students in to do some training. So when I mentioned our partners model before, I'll talk a little bit later about the demographics of how we partner our students with and without disabilities together. But the things that we work with them on is obviously proper hand washing procedures. As soon as they come into the shop, they need to go over to the hand washing sink, wash their hands, make sure it's dry, put on their gloves, and then we also have them them, they have to wear aprons. So the aprons that we have are just these ones here, and we were able to get them, embroidered with our little Baldwin Bean logo on them. But these are the aprons that the students wear while they're working, and you'd be surprised how dirty these get very easily. And then we also do have Baldwin Bean hats. So the hats are something that we kind of ask our students to try to wear. Some students are better about remembering to bring their hat with them, but also, like I said, kind of part of what we utilize, like with our uniform here. But we also teach students about just other things that if they were ever going to go into the food service industry, obviously we're not preparing them to do every single thing possible, but they're at least going to have a decent, good core set of skills to understand something. So we teach them about wash, rinse, and sanitize. All the students know that the red bucket's the sanitizer, and the green bucket is the wash, and the yellow one is the rinse. And those are the same color buckets they use if you're going to work in food service. Also, they have the 3 bins: wash, rinse, sanitize. So after they mix a drink, they know which order they go into to be able to follow those procedures there. We also teach them about temperature checks. So every day we have a log that we need to check the temperature of the freezer and the refrigeration unit, and if it's not within the appropriate temperature, then we need to get a different thermometer to check the internal temperature to see if anything is compromised or whatever. We also teach them inventory. So for example, when I said before that our food service department orders everything for us, we tell them what we need. So for example, I'll have students that come through and they inventory, okay, we're running low on this, we're out of this, we need more of this, or they can write in which Coke products we need or anything else like that. We have students that come in and they do stocking. We have students that come in and put all of the, the sweet and low and the stevia, because we can't have real sugar. I still don't understand why we can't have the real sugar, because the artificial stuff can kill you just as easily from everything I read. But that's what's in the guidelines, so that's what works. But when we're doing all of the different stuff there, we did training with the students on how to make lattes and teas. So the biggest drinks that we do is we have iced lattes and iced teas. Those are our 2 biggest sellers in terms of drinks. We do sell hot coffee, but not that many people actually purchase it. It's more staff. I have a few students that'll come in and buy a hot coffee. One kid came in and ordered a black coffee. It almost knocked me off my socks that they didn't want to put anything in there. But we had a recipe that was involved with making the teas and the lattes. So if you can look up in the top picture up there, you can see there's the syrups that are there, all sugar-free syrups, and we kind of have a recipe that, we were able to work out the recipe to where the iced teas and the lattes, they get the same number of pumps. It's 3 pumps. But if it's a latte, they're putting in 3 pumps of the espresso, 3 pumps of the flavor, filling it up with the milk. And then if it's a tea, they're putting in 3 pumps of the flavor and then moving over and putting it, in the tea. So getting all of that together and teaching them how to do that. One of the other things that we did is when we're making accommodations, we would have little recipe cards. So if the students were having trouble trying to remember how to make something, we would have the instructions right there with a picture. We would put little labels on them on the cups so they know which cup went with which drink. We would have reminders on the tanks as to what was in them so that they didn't necessarily forget and pour a caramel latte when they were supposed to pour a vanilla latte. So all different kinds of things to accommodate the students whether or not they needed it. The vast majority of our students that were able to make an entire latte or flavored iced tea drink, after a few weeks they didn't even need these because they kind of just got used to doing it. But it was something that we did to kind of help everybody out in the beginning. So we're really trying to do a lot that we can with real-world vocational training. So we tried to make everything as close to what a real situation would be like. We work a lot on customer service skills. When students come in, we try to teach them to say, hey, welcome to the Baldwin Bean, what can we get for you? Or hey, what would you like? We want the usual. Believe it or not, we have enough people that come in that they do have a usual, and it's sad that I start to learn what high school students' usual drinks are because they come in so often. We also get the kids that come in and that are deer in headlights and they just see everything I don't know what I want. And I'm like, well, do you want something hot? Do you want something cold? And go from there and trying to teach the students to do that. Because a lot of times, when the students are working behind the counter, you may see them come up, What would you like today? I'm like, hey guys, let's try to, be a little Or, they'll make a drink and walk over and I'll see that they're just standing there holding the drink, holding it. I was like, say, vanilla latte, so the person who ordered it knows and comes back. So doing things like that, trying to get them to come out of their shell a little bit. Now, with our students that are working there, we break everything down. So the first period of the day that I'm there, I kind of have a lot of our lower functioning students that are working there. So for example, another accommodation that we might have is if they're not able to do the entire process of like ice, 3 pumps of this, 3 pumps of this, pour in the milk, we have large beverage containers that already have some stuff that's pre-made. So all they got to do is put the ice in, go right over, and it's a 2-step process. They don't have to worry about mixing or anything, and they're able to do that. Or for example, I might send someone at like our donut station, and they take the donut out, put it in the bag, hand it to the customer. But then I have other students that are able to do the entire process all the way through. With my higher functioning students that come in a little bit later in the day, I'm able to kind of just yell at them, like, hey, I need a vanilla latte, or hey, I need 2 raspberry iced teas, and they get it and they're moving forward, and they get it and move it, and we're moving and grooving and yelling at each other just like you were at Starbucks or Dunkin'. So this was our grand opening. We had a big opening ceremony, way more people in there than we should have. It was very hot that day, but it was very exciting. We had so many people that wanted to kind of just come and share in the experience and be a part of it. We had some community leaders and politicians and representatives and district administrators and community members and family members, and everybody was there just to kind of open it. We had a lot of really nice local media coverage from our news outlets to kind of promote what we were trying to do, not just as a opportunity for students with disabilities, but just as a business model for students to get them experience. A lot of the students that work there, I always tell them, like, use me as a reference. This is something great you can put down on a resume that you were a student barista in the Baldwin Bean. It's something that you can go into an interview and say, oh, when I made drinks, this is how I did it, or oh, I know what washer and sanitize means, or oh, I know that that's a hand washing sink and I'm only supposed to wash hands in there. I'm not supposed to dump dirty water after I mop in there, things like that. So I'm just going to play one little snippet of an interview here from, and is that not going to work? Maybe I won't play an interview. Okay, well that's not going to work, so I won't play that. I had a little interview I was going to play when one of our superintendent did an interview with a local radio talk show host, Robert Mangino in Pittsburgh, and they just kind of talked a little bit about the grand opening and all of the different things that were part of that, and just the excitement around the day and getting everything started. But like I said, if you are able to download everything off there, the link should theoretically work on there. And then we had some different articles that were linked from the Post-Gazette in Pittsburgh, the Purbalite, which is our school newspaper, and Kidsburg, a local media outlet that does lots of different stuff that's happening. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our day-to-day operation. So we are open during periods 1 and 2 during the day, which runs from about 7:35 to 9:15. So the way my day will typically start is that's before 7:35 is when all of our students are arriving. So students are coming in, getting off the bus, getting to the lockers and stuff. So what I usually do is I will start by going down to our cafeteria, filling up our cart, and bringing down everything we need for the day. So we have fresh baked donuts that are baked in the cafeteria that we'll bring down, turn the cookie oven on to start, get stuff set up and ready to go. And then at about 7:35, our students come in and we get everyone moving and grooving. So at the end of the year, we did a pilot during our lunch periods to investigate about being open more for this year. So we were open during all of our lunch periods and kind of switched over to where we still did a lot of the drinks and pastries and snacks, but then we also did like grab-and-go sandwiches and salads and things like that. What we also noticed was a lot of students that do after-school activities like to stop by and they would like stock up on snacks for later in the day. So they're coming through and buying beef jerky at 8:30 in the morning that I know they're not eating right then and there, but using it for later, when they have something happening after school. So the students that come into the coffee shop because I'm sure some of you are wondering, like, do we just have this open? Our school is about 1,400 people, including all students, just at our high school. So any of the students that can come down from a study hall, or they can come down with a pass from a teacher. So what will normally happen is, if maybe there's a substitute teacher in and they're just kind of working on a worksheet, they're welcome to send a few kids down with a pass. If a teacher is doing a test and someone gets done early and they say, hey, I want to go down and grab something from the bean, they're more than welcome to do so. Then once they get down to the bean, we have a sign-in sheet. So as they come through and sign and pay for their items, then we have them sign out just as kind of like a check and balance. So that way, you know, if someone's coming down, like, we know what time they signed in and also where they're coming from. And I'm sure your next question is do we have issues with people coming down who shouldn't? Sometimes we do. I'll get to that a little bit later. And then also, this is the really cool thing that I like about our coffee shop is teachers can actually book the space through a Google Calendar and bring their entire class down and have class in the coffee shop. So what we did was, because we're a one-to-one school district and all the students have a Chromebook, what a lot of times will happen is teachers will book the space down when students either have like a review day before a test, if they have like a writing day for English class, or I'll show you a picture in a minute of like our AP statistic teacher would bring her students down one time a month, and they would just do their problems on the board because there was only like 6 or 7 kids. But teachers were actually able to book the space and they could have class in the coffee shop. So again, trying to find other ways to buy in and also create, like, what we're really trying to work on, another big initiative is non-traditional learning spaces. So, you know, kind of setting up more of like a college atmosphere in high school where students have a little bit more freedom to, you know, move around the building. And again, do we have students that take advantage of it? Yes. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's all perfect and everyone needs to be where they need to be, but it's a movement that we're trying to get to, is being able to, you know, have those different options for students. So our beverages can be made to order, and as I mentioned before, like, you know, so if we're out of something that's in the beverage tank, or sometimes we have students that like to like experiment and they'll be like, I'll have a caramel hazelnut vanilla latte. If that tastes good or not, but they want to try it. So, you know, if someone wants to try that, we're more than welcome to give them that opportunity. Or one time I had somebody come in and they said they wanted a white chocolate iced tea, and we were all like, oh, you sure that's what you want? Like, yeah, I've tried it before and I loved it. We're like, okay, that's fine. Hey, whatever you like. So, and the big thing too is, since we do get like a rush, oftentimes like the popular flavors will always fill up, like a vanilla latte and a caramel latte. Those are our 2 most popular flavors of lattes. So a lot of times, you know, the kids will come in to purchase the lattes and we can just kind of pour them, and it kind of keeps the line moving a little bit faster. We do have the various flavored cookies that we make fresh daily. That also usually helps bring in some customers as we kind of waft that smell of fresh baked cookies out into the lobby there. And then a lot of the other food is prepackaged, which also helps us too. So in terms of like food handling and serving, it's a good first step for our students, because, you know, they do work on some things that they have to make sure that they handle carefully. But when they're working with the donuts, and they have to recognize if they have glaze or frosting or whatever all over their hands, that then, okay, I need to change my gloves, you know, move on to the next thing. So we kind of are working on everything at like that introductory level, to where we're giving them some exposure to things that they would, you know, maybe eventually go on with and, you know, increase their knowledge. So students can pay with their cafeteria account. Like I mentioned, that Skyward system that everyone has a code. They can pay for cash, they can pay with a check, and then just towards the end of the year, we were able to start implementing Square. So now we can take all major credit cards, Google Pay, and Apple Pay. So as I mentioned before, one of the biggest goals for the coffee shop was to have it be a space for everyone. I wanted it to be used by a lot of different people in lots of different ways. So as I mentioned before, there's a picture of our AP statistics class, and they're in the bean. The teacher's doing some problems on the board, and, you know, they're in there having their class on, you know, just a regular old day. We have a lot of times where students just come in to hang out. Oftentimes we're very popular, like if students are leaving for a field trip, we get a rush of people that come in and they'll come hang out, grab something, you know, before they leave for a field trip. We've also had a lot of guest speakers come in, and they'll come in and use the space to, you know, have as a space for guest can't talk today. We have also done a lot of things, staff breakfast. So anytime we've had like professional development this year, we wanted to have the opportunity for the other, staff from within the district to see it, because they've all heard about it through emails and, word of mouth and everything. But we wanted them to be able to have a taste of, what we offer there. So usually during professional development, we'll offer, staff breakfast where they can come in and purchase things, and, we'll have some things for free. And on top of just getting the food, like, they just like the space. Like, I even have some teachers that come down during their planning period because, they like the environment, and they'll come down and, grade some tests or do things, that are down there. So as I mentioned before, we also wanted to have a space where we could host events. So we had an English teacher that did a poetry out loud competition. So we were like the school competition before they moved on to like the regional competition. So she kind of decorated everything right at Christmas time with poetry, and they, did microphones. We also were able to set it up when she did that. We did like a catering order. So all the students put in orders ahead of time, and then we filled them that morning. And then when all the students that were doing the competition had a break, they came over to a table. We had little, signs with each of their drinks. They picked up their drink and went. So it was pretty cool. We had some of our sports reporters from our school newspaper do a fan with some on-air talent from 93.7 The Fan. It's a sports talk radio show in Pittsburgh. And what we did was we had our superintendent, our athletics coordinator, and some of these guys use the Bean as a space to do their podcast interviews. So just kind of tying in, different people and different avenues to use the space. Now, when they were there, they had nothing to do with coffee. They were just kind of doing it to have it in the space. Our English as a second language did a cultural day where they had their students dress up in garb from their native country, and they did dancing and singing all in our lounge area. They booked it, and we just had it available for anybody that wanted to kind of come and see what was going on. So as I mentioned before, we got buy-in from multiple places. I figured the more people that we had that had some kind of a stake or a share in the coffee shop, the more utilization we'd get from everybody. So we had buy-in from like our art department, music, graphic design, our Partners PE program, and then also our Intro to Business class. The last two up there are where we use our partners from. The partners that help our students with special needs is our Partners PE class and also our Intro to Business class. So art, as I mentioned before, all of the artwork throughout the entire coffee shop is student done. From design to sketch to actual paint, they did everything. I think they bit off a little bit more than they could chew because they all thought they'd be able to get it done in like 2 days, and it ended up taking them about 2 weeks. But once it was done and it looked great, they were all really excited about it. And all the students got to kind of like initial next to their artwork and kind of showcase it. Again, something that they can then put down on their resume. I've had my artwork showcased in a coffee shop. And then also we have another wall where we're able to showcase student artwork throughout the year, and we can interchange it so that students have a place to further display all of their different stuff that they do throughout the year. So our music department, when we had our grand opening, we had live music, and like a lot of coffee shops do, they might have like an open mic night. So we work sometimes with our music department. One of the things we're going to try to do next year is almost have a little bit more of like, once a month we have a certain day that's like our music day to allow students to have the opportunity to perform. The little nook that's in there works perfectly for like a guitar and a drum and a small setup there. So if students would want to have an opportunity to do a performance in a safe, non huge setting, they have the opportunity to do that. So graphic design. With our graphic design, well, not just with this, but with everything we do within our school district, a lot of times we say it's almost like having like a small city at your disposal and a small community. So you have all these different resources that you can tap into, not just but from the staff, but from the students. So all of the graphics that are incorporated, if you saw the TV screen that we have that's inside the Bean, has a Chrome bit that's inserted into it, and we have digital, so we use it as a digital sign. So we turned a TV and made it into digital signage that scrolls announcements and also student artwork. So what we did was we kind of had them make little like mock-ups of like the coffee using our logo to kind of make little advertisements. All of the menus that you see were all designed by students. So they used the logo, the graphic design teacher gave an assignment and said, hey, whoever makes the best menu, they get to have it. So this is the menu that we utilize for everything. So our partners physical education, as I mentioned before, these are two of our young ladies up here, Maddie and Cassie, that helped me out. And what we would do with our partners class is they would have two students that came in like one day of the week that they were responsible for, and they would come in and help our students. So like I said, with our lower functioning students that couldn't maybe do necessarily everything, they would kind of partner with them. So for example, they would have them make a latte, but they would kind of keep an eye on them to make sure they were putting the right number of pumps in and stirring it, or if they're forgetting to do wash, rinse, sanitize, they're kind of helping them with that. Or some of our students that may have a little bit more fine and gross motor skills that had trouble like using the tongs to get the donut out, they might hold the bag for them so that they're not dropping it on the floor. That did happen a few more times than I wanted it to, but it's okay, we worked through that. So we usually have anywhere from 2 to 4 students behind the counter and myself at a time. It depends, like sometimes I may have like 1 student with special needs and 2 partners. Other times I may have 2 and 2, 3 and 1. It just kind of depends on the day. Because the other thing too was, with it being the coffee shop, I thought it was very important to make sure that everyone saw that we had, you know, people that they knew working behind the counter. It wasn't just our students with special needs. For it to be truly inclusive, I didn't want it to be something that made our students stand out. I wanted it to be something that kind of brought everyone together and kind of made everyone kind of on, you know, the same page. So working with that model, we really tried to always make sure that we have, you know, some, you know, semblance of that mix of partners. Our intro to business class. So the lady on the right there is Mrs. Kilburn. She was kind of like my my go-to person for everything. She has an intro to business class that would also give me partners. And what she kind of was able to do is integrate some of the concepts into her business class. So what she would do is if students would come up to work on the coffee shop, she may exempt them from, you know, maybe the activity that they were doing in class, which they love, by the way. As they come up, I'd always be like, oh, what'd I get you out of today? Like, oh, you got me out of this big project. I only had to do half of it. But the bigger thing that they did is they would help us with, you know, changing the chalkboards that were advertisements outside the doors. Her daughter, Lexi right there, would also get some girls to come and like decorate the coffee shop for, you know, Christmas and Easter and spring and Valentine's Day. She would also help out with, you know, having the students learn about, you know, what we're doing inventory-wise for a business, how you do it, or a business model and advertising and different things. So we partnered with the business department to try to, you know, take some of the aspects of what we're doing physically in the coffee shop, but then also apply it into the class, and then also give the students a new way to kind of learn, well, here's what I'm learning in class about business, and then actually apply it into a real business that we're working on. So technology obviously is a huge part of what we do. Technology is a huge part of everything nowadays. So anytime you have a chance to incorporate that, like I said, we were just able to get Square set up. And so we have an iPad that we can, you know, do the card reader and the chip reader. The cool thing about that is we now can teach students that skill, which then, you know, almost everywhere you go now, they take a debit card. So, you know, they're able to, you know, swipe the card, then turn it around so the person can do a receipt and sign off if they need to. The coffee shops, we have a mobile Fab Lab that does fabrication. So these were actually made by us. We bought the coffee mugs, but then our Fab Lab put the logo on them, and then we sold these as a fundraiser. We also had our Fab Lab make these little decals. So we do a lot of decals since all the kids have Chromebooks. They love to decorate their Chromebooks with stickers and things. So we had little Baldwin Bean decals that they could put on. I mentioned the Chromebit digital signage. So the Chromebit connects to the computer and just has like an ad cycle, like off of a slide presentation that just, you know, loops round and round and goes off of that. And then we also set up a mobile delivery service just for teachers. I was afraid what was going to happen if we even tried to do that for 1,400 students. But what we did was, so you can see Nicole, who is actually one of our students who's nonverbal. She either will help us out as a greeter or she'll do our delivery service. So when she's greeting, she has her iPad with her Prolo Quo loaded up with, welcome to the Baldwin Bean, what would you like today? Or hey, have a nice day, want to try a latte, something like that. And then we also purchased this for her to transport. So what we would do is we put this Dyson material in here so it doesn't slide, and then it has the anti-skid stuff on it. Put that right on the tray, and then she's able to go deliver to our staff, whether it's a smoothie or a drink or whatever. And like I said, so we'll put like this Dyson and put that down on it, and then she's able to do her deliveries for all of us there. As I mentioned, there's our menus, so you can kind of see they're included on the stuff that's on our on the drive. That was all the handouts from here. So if you want to kind of take a little bit more a look at like our prices, and what we have to offer in terms of product and stuff. Now these are from December, so they're a little bit different than that, but basically the same. So some of the challenges, just getting enough traction to get the idea off the ground was a huge challenge. Only being open for part of the school day was a little bit of a challenge. I'm the transition coordinator, but I also have teacher responsibilities as well. So obviously the district's not going to pay me a teacher salary to work in a coffee shop for the entire day, as nice as that would be. So I do that for the first part of my morning and then move on to my other tasks. Getting a steady base of customers. When we first started, we would have a lot of days where it was like dead and like nobody was coming in. And it really took a lot of buy-in too from teachers to start giving a little bit more flexibility of letting students come down. Or also students remembering that they could come down and use their lunch account. Like I can't tell you how many times students would come in and say, oh, well, I don't have any cash with me. I'm like, put your code in. It's like $50 on your lunch account. Like you can afford a $1.75 latte if you really want, Working around the dietary restrictions, we have a lot of students that come in and they're like, what do you mean we can't have real sugar? I'm like, well, you guys should be used to that because you can't get in the cafeteria. But then also too, working sometimes like if we have people that are vegan or people that need like soy milk, the problem that we have is since we do order things in bulk, we can't necessarily order that in bulk because we only have a few people that need it. And what would happen is we would spend this money and then it would spoil. So like I even have one teacher that comes down and she orders the latte and we put everything in it except for the milk. And then she puts her own milk when she gets back in. And then we charge her like, a discounted price for that. Students cutting class, coming to the coffee shop, yeah, they're high school kids. I did have that. I've definitely learned a lot more kids' faces and names and everything now, but I would get emails from teachers be like, hey, was so-and-so down there? They were supposed to be up here taking a biology test with me. So, we did have some of those things that we had to work through. Staffing the coffee shop, like for example with me, like if there was something that I had to do in terms of like my transition responsibilities, whether it was a conference or checking on my interns that are out working in other places or working with our career and tech center, making sure that we had somebody that could kind of staff the coffee shop as like the adult person that was in there is something that we were, kind of struggling with, sometime. Some of our successes. So this is Mr. Lachlan, who's our partner's PE teacher. We use him as our salesperson for iced teas since he's very upbeat and happy. Some of the successes, we've really seen a lot of students that have gotten out of their shell. Maybe when they started with us, they were the ones that I said before kind of just stood there like this and didn't really talk. And now when people come in, hey, welcome to the Baldwin Bean, what can I get for you? Or hey, nice to see you. Do you want to try a muffin or a donut? Or hey, our special today is Irish cream lattes. You want to give it a try? The vocational training aspect of it, we've really seen a lot of students grow from that repetition of being able to work and do the same skills over and over again. We had some students who, before we started, didn't know the difference between a latte or an iced tea, and now they can tell you how many pumps of this and how many pumps of that. It's a great resume building for all students. I had two of our partners. One got hired at Dunkin', and one actually got hired at a nursing home, completely unrelated, working as like a busboy. But they saw the experience that they had listed here, used me as a reference, and it was, a nice thing for them to then, go off of that. It's a great inviting place for people to start and hang out and start their day. We have like a little speaker system, so we play music. It's like any other coffee shop. There's music playing, there's people talking, there's people doing stuff on their computer, people just kind of hanging out, doing whatever. It's a non-traditional learning space, so students are able to kind of just come hang out, work on their stuff, like they would do like if they're in college, or like one of us would do if we go to Panera or somewhere else and jump on the Wi-Fi and try to get some stuff done while we're enjoying it. So I would say that the successes far outweighed the drawbacks, but like with anything, it was something that we had to really work at. So obviously, as I meant before, we're really about inclusion, trying to make this another way to just get people to understand that when we include people with disabilities, there's a lot of great things that can happen. I think a lot of our partners were really amazed to see some of the things that our students with special needs were able to do. When we switched at the semester break, I had a whole new group of kids come in from the intro to business class, and my life skill students were able to tell them, hey, you're making that wrong. You got to put 3 pumps of this in, or hey, that's the wrong cup. You need to go. And like, you know, so seeing some of that is like really, really cool stuff to be able to see that, you know, they were able to kind of take that on, and it's something that they're working, you know, together. You know, if someone's there and they're frustrated, somebody else comes by, hey, don't worry about it. You know, the biggest thing I tell them is, don't worry about the line. If they don't want their stuff, they're going to leave. So if they want their coffee or if they want their treat, they'll wait in line. Don't worry about it. But it's been a really great thing to kind of, you know, see. So some of the things that are up next for us, next year we're working on doing mobile ordering. So now that we have Square, we can actually set up a mobile website. So our goal is to be just like Starbucks or Dunkin', where you can do a mobile order, pay for it online. We'll have a table you can walk in between class, pick up your drink, and keep going. So that way we don't have a line that's, you know, out the door and kids are, you know, being late for class. That was actually another challenge we had, because we had to close the shop in between periods because everyone would try to get in and then the line gets so long and then everyone's missing classes. So we have to I actually have like a bouncer at the door, one of our aides that kind of like stands there and like make sure nobody comes in so that nobody is late to class. So we always tell them, go get a pass from your teacher and come back. We're going to be continuing to offer, you know, new menu items. We also can now do gift cards through Square. So a lot of the teachers now like to utilize us as an opportunity for like rewards and things. So if they, you know, are giving a reward to a student where maybe they would have given them a gift card somewhere else, now they can come and give them, you know, a $5 gift card to the Baldwin Bean and they can come, you know, get something. We're looking to expand the amount of time we're open each day, so hopefully we should be open during all lunch periods again. And then also too, working on a new set of skills with students. So we're continually working on, you know, new things that we can, you know, teach them, piggybacking, scaffolding skills. You know, the students that maybe we're just doing like cleanup and, you know, inventory, maybe then trying to get them into the customer service side. Because as I said, we do kind of sometimes compartmentalize. If students aren't able, we did have some students, you know, we would try the customer service the very first day. They're like sneezing into their hands or they're wiping. And we're like, okay, we need to take a step back. But we still incorporate them maybe when the coffee shop's closed. They come in, they clean, they inventory and stock. And maybe they're just not ready for that particular aspect of it yet. But we still keep them involved in different ways. We're on Twitter, so if any of you guys ever want to follow us and kind of see what's going on, we are at BHS Baldwin Bean, and I kind of just put a couple little shots of you know, some of the screenshots from things that we've sent out. Our district is really big into social media and Twitter, so they kind of mandate that we, you know, do it and showcase everything that's happening, which is nice but sometimes annoying. But trying to remember to like, hey, tweet stuff out. But it's a great way for people. I've had people email me from kind of like around the country because they've seen stuff that we do on Twitter and be like, hey, can you tell me what you did about this? Or, you know, hey, what did you guys think about this when you had, you know, this challenge or things like that? And it's just kind of been a nice way for people to, you know, connect and kind of get a chance to, you know, see what we're doing. And that is the Baldwin Bean. So does anybody have any questions before I head out? I know I kind of covered a lot of stuff about what we do and, you know, how we did it, but did anyone have any specific questions about anything? Here.
Do the students get any type of certification or, I'm sorry. Do the students get any type of certification for like SafeServe or anything like that as well? Or?
We don't have anything set up through our program to do that. Now we do have some students that, you know, maybe go to our Career and Tech Center and they'll do this almost like a little bit of an opportunity to kind of work on some of those skills. But currently, no, we don't have anything set up only because we're not able to really do like the theory component. We do more of you know, that kind of stuff with it.
Have you expanded anything into your middle school or elementary school? I came from a district where like I was in 2nd through 4th, but we did like a snack bar for just the faculty. And you know, do you do any of that to lead up to your program?
So not yet. We actually are kind of doing it backwards. So we've kind of started and moved down the same way we've done with partners, where we had everything at the high school. We now have that at our middle school. We just started this year, and then like we do now have one of our elementary schools that's going to be starting like a popcorn cart for their life skills program at the elementary level. But then we have had some conversations with our middle school about trying to incorporate something similar. I think with us, it was just such a huge endeavor to get everything off the board. I think that's one of maybe like the longer term goals we're going to look at down the road. But yeah, a lot of times like we'll pilot stuff at our high school and we kind of then, you know, push down the other way.
Oh, what?
Hi, I was wondering how you determine what students, like is it based on assessments or just interest, or just if they are in special education? Like, what's the criteria?
So we kind of look at it a couple different ways. The primary demographics we look at is our life skills population. And then from there, what we'll kind of do is I'll be in touch with some of the other special education teachers. Like if there's some other students maybe with, autism, learning disability, anybody that they think would benefit from it, if we can find a way to work it into their schedule, we'll kind of do that. Like if it's an elective and maybe they can miss that elective one period a week to then come down and work in the coffee shop, we've done that. We also utilize this a couple of different ways. We'll use it as like assessments to see if any of our students are ready to go out into the community for some of our other internships. Or sometimes, like I said, we'll start out with students coming down and just doing like some of the cleaning and stuff when no one's there, just to get like a baseline of, if they're able to handle any kind of vocational stuff, and then try to scaffold them hopefully up to working behind the counter in the coffee shop. Yeah, sure.
Well, it's being recorded because we know you're probably loud enough.
Is it a volunteer opportunity, or are they having any payment?
Oh, good question. I should have mentioned that. So what we do is currently we do not have everything set up that the students get paid, but what we do instead is, so for example, like the students that are coming from Partners P or Intro to Business, they're exempted from some things for class. Students earn tips, so believe it or not, we do get a lot of people that come through and tip, and anytime we do that, especially also sometimes we'll do special events like if we do like our back to school night, like for open house or whatever, we get a lot more tips as high schoolers are traditionally not good tippers. So the students do get tips through that, and then also, like I said, we use it as the resume experience, using me as a reference, and some of those initiatives as well. We're going to look at hopefully maybe down the road seeing how much revenue we generate. If we get to a point where we're generating an enormous amount, then we would look to potentially try to work that in. But when we first started, that wasn't just something we were going to be able to do. So we do offer them some incentives. Oh, and we also offer them discounted prices on all the drinks. So usually, like if they want to get, like, they can take a free coffee to go, or sometimes if depending on what products and stuff we have, if it's the end of the week and stuff's going to be getting ready to go, then they can kind of just take some stuff with them. So they do get some discounts and things like that as well.
My last question just has to do with like the frustration or from the students that are buying drinks and stuff like that. Have you had to deal with frustrations? Have you had to deal with people making comments and things like that?
That's a good question. Not a ton. Believe it or not, we've had some instances where like students have made the wrong drinks, and from our students knowing a lot of our students, because we're so inclusive, they'll come and be like, "I'm so sorry, but so-and-so made the wrong drink for me." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we'll fix it." Like, no, don't tell them, I don't want to make it big. I'm like, no, like they made it wrong. We need to go back and fix it. So we do have that happen sometimes, or, sometimes we do have situations where like the line gets long and students might be a little testy. But I try to explain to the students, it's all part of customer service and what you have to deal with. But for the most part, all the students have been very receptive to, everything that's happening. I've had very few complaints. We put out a survey at the end of the year just to get student feedback and staff feedback. And I would say it was, 95% positive, other than, hey, if we could work a little faster. I'm like, well, yeah, but we're trying to work as fast as we can. Like, that's something that's going to come with time. But yeah, for the most part, everybody's been very positive about it. We've had students that have, gone to pull a tray out of cookies out and they dropped the entire thing, and we got to go back and make more and work around that. So, I don't want you to think that it's perfect. Like, mistakes have happened with that, or, someone makes a strawberry latte instead of an iced tea, and, we fix it and go on from there. But yeah, the students have all been very, very, very good about it.
Just one more question.
Yeah, and I can stick around if anybody has any questions afterwards. I'll be here if you guys want to talk, because I know we're getting ready for lunch here.
I was just wondering if there's a way to incorporate this that people from the community can utilize your shop, or with the rules with the school and people being in the building itself. Is that something that's not available?
So the way we have it set up is now if anybody's in the building for some reason, they're able to come to the coffee shop. We don't have it set up yet that people are able to come in out from the public for security. But for example, like when we have parents that come in for meetings with guidance counselors or IEP meetings, like they may shoot down and get something. Or when we have, guest speakers or visitors, or sometimes we even get bus drivers. Like they'll, park the bus, come in, and they'll come and get something. We operate DART program out of part of our building in our high school. When those teachers have a break, they'll come up and get something. So when we've had like some of our events and things like that and people are already in the building, they're more than welcome to come down. We haven't yet addressed doing that just because with the amount of space that we have, we're kind of at like max capacity with the students coming in. So if we did that, then we haven't really looked at that. But it's something that we might consider down the road if we maybe are able to branch out. My ideal thing would be to set something up in the community eventually that was, you know, run by us, but that's something that's like way down the road. So.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys, I appreciate it. And like I said, if anyone has any questions or anything else, feel free to just come grab me, or if you want to see any of the stuff that we had from our coffee shop,